All right. Thank you very much. We are back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. It's brought to you by MTN. Welcome to the new world. MTN everywhere you go. It's exciting times on MTN. It's free after one on MTN to all networks. Note that, to all networks. Talk for as long as you can with MTN and Commodore today. You pay for only the first minute and the rest is free. It's absolutely free after the first minute. Enjoy unlimited talk time only on MTN to all networks. Make that call now and pay for only the first minute. Dial *315# to sign up for free. So go on, enjoy the freedom of longer conversations with MTN in Commodore and say welcome to the new world. MTN everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply. Now, the Tonic Ghana's, test drive for their very luxurious cars is still ongoing. So go to Tonic Ghana, get a test drive, and when you are done, as I always say, you will make a decision. No one will tell you about that. If you are a lover of sleek, alluring Jeeps and Chryslers, the most durable Dodge Durango and Dodge Ram are available, and they have their new Chrysler 300C, which offers you a royal ride home, and the fuel consumption is the lowest in its class. They also have the 8-speed automatic Eco Diesel Grand Cherokee, another first in Ghana. It's simply amazing. So like I say, just give them a call. Tonic Ghana, you call them on 0501 338 072, 0501 338 072 for a test drive. Tonic, setting standards. And Bank of Africa is proud to announce to you that, like their customers always confirm, they are the bank where you get the unique experience, where you go and you have any headaches or any stress accessing their facilities. That's the bank with products that are tailored to meet and satisfy your corporate and personal needs. Bank of Africa on 0244 338 226. That's 0244 338 226. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. A few of your messages. Corelli Sisi says, make sure that it does not lead to any form of military intervention. And then Enoch Osei says, I'm loving every bit of the clinical analysis being done by the panelists. And the line, okay, forget about my questions. I'm paid to do that. Then there's another one here. Okay. Osman Damba. He says, I feel proud as a Ghanaian with the nationalistic approach we are treating this case. Ghanaians both within and out of the country are willing to offer support towards winning this memorable case. Kudos to the Minister of Justice for putting up such a strong team. God bless our homeland, Ghana. And is it Abdul Razak Lukman? He suggests that, well, it may look like both may have equal chances. Well, when I put on my nationalistic cap, unfortunately, I won't read the full of your text message. Now, also, Mohammed Toff says that, please inform the Honorable Inus Afuseni that we Ghanaians are also asking he and his colleagues to also be patriotic with our taxes in the way you are saying a lot of people are patriotic in, coming forward with free information to you. Thank you very much for all the messages that you have brought in. Now, President Mahama, he may have not needed to be emotional about his speech, as suggested by Professor Makoba of the KNUST Faculty of Political Science. He says he had expected the president to be very emotional about that part of his Ebola appeal so that he would have gotten the needed response. Well, as it appears, Ban Ki-moon doesn't need any emotional appeal. He says he's commending the president for his Ebola fight and the manner in which he's going about it. Now, let's look at the speech in totality, but zero in on the president's attitude to Ebola in Africa. He says Ebola is not Guinea, is not a Sierra Leonean or Liberian, problem. It is a world problem. Mr. Newsfile.
Well, when I heard the comment of Dr. Amako, head of political science department of the University of Science and University of Science and Technology, I was surprised. He indeed had time to read the speech.
Well, I heard him say that you didn't have the opportunity to listen.
Yes, listen, that's so, yes. Because read the speech again, and you will see all the emotions that Dr. Amako needed are packed there. The speech starts with even challenging the world system, drawing our attention to things that have happened that are unacceptable, and clearly asking the world body, everybody present there, whether or not, even though these things have happened, we can see that we are retrogressing. Then he touches the soft spots for humans. It was so waxed lyrically that he makes a transition into Ebola without you knowing. Without not knowing that he was moving straight to Ebola. He started touching what concerns us as humans. What makes us human beings. What makes me see my senior, Otu, and want to greet him and shake him. Why I can't shake him now? What makes us as people bury our dead with pomp and pageantry? What makes us weep for them that now we can't weep for them? What makes us not be able to mark the graves of those who have died? When indeed you move towards Osu, you see marks on graves. Ebola, the dead from Ebola will have unmarked graves. It touches the core of our human existence. So it left me wondering whether indeed the prof had time to look at the emotions packed in this statement.
So you forget about him and then you look at it from your own perspective.
From my own perspective, I like speeches and I like good speeches. I've collected a lot. As I speak to you now, I have the speech of Mandela when he was asked to make his closing remarks, when he was to be incarcerated. I mean, he thought he was going to be hanged, sentenced to death by hanging. And he made that statement. I have it. And I read it. It's interesting. I have the inaugural speech of Obama and what it represents, what his vision was for America. And I love it. In law school, I read and continuously read Marcus Garvey's Marcus Garvey. What he said. Louis Farrakhan, listen to the tapes because it opens your mind. The president's speech is one such speech that I will keep. Because the way he moves to areas touching on Ebola, moving from Ebola, talking about his difficulties, the difficulties on the African continent, and what can be done on the African continent, moving, zeroing in into the difficulties in this country, and what is done to address the difficulties, inviting world leaders, and particularly the Israelis and the Palestinians, to see sense in the two-state solution to the problem, ending by wishing them Happy New Year in both languages. Clearly, President Mahama presented himself, and I'm proud that he is my president. Not because I'm a minister of state.
Okay, so we'll do it one by one. We'll get briefly hold on. Now, Zaikotu, he first of all gave an indication or announced to them that he had taken a trip as the head of ECOWAS, the chairman of ECOWAS. He had taken a trip to the West affected countries, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. And like Ms. Anusa said, he was not happy about what he saw particularly that these are countries that are just, coming out of, war, conflict, and are seeking, help to be able to survive. Then he comes to say, in my travels, I'm quoting him, in my travels to those three countries, despite my awareness of the suspension of flights by some air carriers, I was shocked to find the airports completely vacant. And this is a crusade he started not just today. Then he goes on to say, Ebola is not just a Liberian problem or a Sierra Leonean Guinean problem or Guinean problem. It is not just a West African problem. Ebola is a problem that belongs to the world because it is a disease that knows no boundaries. Some say, good speech, nice words, but what?
Well, you see, to some extent, if you read the entire statement, you get a feeling that indeed Mr. President did not make a passionate appeal for help. I'm saying so because if you look at the concluding statement before he moves on to talk about terrorism, so look at the last paragraph. The free movement of people, goods and services throughout the West African sub-region is something that ECOWAS has been promoting for the last several decades. It allows interaction and increased trade between our 15 member states. However, without the proper preventive measures in place, such fluidity can also enable the free movement of disease, drugs, arms, human traffickers, and terrorists. Then he moves on straight. Unfortunately, Africa is especially vulnerable to terrorism. So it is perhaps within this context that the professor or the doctor is saying that he should have maybe made a passionate appeal to international community. Of course, we heard him say that he's commending President Barack Obama for, the attempt to, his commitment to
and the
fight,
UN itself.
And the UN itself and all that. But did he actually make a speak? Did he call for assistance for Africa, for West Africa? I think that's the issue. If he did not, then he made a fine speech, good. But what are we expecting? Like you,
do you find an appeal in this, or that you're looking for, the appeal as in direct appeal? He says that in the course of the past several months, since the beginning of the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, I have been reminded of both the importance and the practicality of those words. True progress relies on neither victory nor defeat, but in persistence, on perseverance.
Yes.
Is he not saying something?
No. No. You see, he's made a point that it is not a West African problem. Neither is it only for those three countries who is affected. But then, if it is not, then what are you looking for? Then you are saying that the world must come together. Let us fight this problem. Because Obama somewhere was reported to have said that it is a threat, to the entire world.
Right.
So why don't you make a direct appeal? I remember former President Rawlings then, I think a chairman of the NDC or so, where we had, some serious difficulties with, scarcity of, goods and services. Coming onto the national, television and making a passionate appeal, standing and talking to the world and asking for, kako and yellow maize, kokobaku. You remember? That is, whereas it is in those, it is in that light. This one looks very diplomatic. Look, it's not our problem. All of us are involved, but let's do something. The question is, what are you looking at?
Okay.
Are you really asking them to come on board?
Okay. Now, Mr. Foji, I don't know how you want to look at it, but where he has commended those who have made efforts, and he says he commends them for their enormous commitment to the fight against Ebola, and he says we must erase the stigma.
Okay, I actually want to go back to this question of how effectively did he communicate the plight, as well as to a certain degree the generalized fear around the place. And I think that the point here is we're talking about an issue of communication styles. The president has a particular communication style. In my personal view, actually, for me, it is an extremely effective communication style. And since people have, basically strayed into other areas, I'll just say that, I actually heard him once on the campaign trail, starting off a speech in Tree, going into Gan, going to Hausa, going into Ewe. He actually has this style which builds up. And I think that speech actually was really effective because he builds it up matter of factly. You see, so there's a communication style here. And if at the end you can't see that your common humanity means that you should assist us, well, then you have a problem. There's a problem with you, the person who's listening, because it has all actually been laid out there. And I also think that the fact that he visited the places, actually sometimes there's a certain way in which the depth of something, it makes you just want to convey it in as structured and as matter of fact a way as possible, because he could have screamed and he could have wailed. But at the end of the day, what people will remember is the screaming and the wailing, rather than, just the systematic things which we need to bear in mind and pay attention to. So for me, it was an excellent speech.
Right. Can I make this quick intervention? I don't think that anybody is saying that there was no appeal. The description of the appeal, the use of the word passionate, I think that's what we are missing here. But was it passionate enough? That is all that is talking about.
There was passion.
That you might have made the appeal.
There was passion.
Was it that passionate?
There was passion. It says,
well, let's discuss it. Let's continue talking about it.
On the 15th September, in my capacity as the chair of ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, I traveled to Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. They are the three countries that have been most affected by the outbreak of Ebola. These are nations that are recovering from conflict.
I refer to that
can you imagine?
Some other portions. You say that's enough to qualify for
even before the outbreak. He says that these nations are already going through, they were already going through serious crisis with Ebola. But even before the outbreak, these nations were already operating with limited resources. So it means that even in those countries.
So you say this is a speech that touches them?
Touches them, touches the people.
Is that different from the direct appeal that Mr. Agotu is asking?
Well, that's a question of style.
Okay, thank you. Well, Abdul Malik, nonetheless, we are told that at a meeting on Friday between the Mr. Mahama and Ban Ki-moon hailed the decision by government of Ghana to host the United Nations mission for Ebola emergency at the capital, that is here in Accra, and he practically praised Mr. Mahama for, how he's going about his fight against Ebola.
Well, I don't know.
That's it. So,
I didn't get opportunity to watch the broadcast. I didn't. But at least there have been bits from media.
Because the body language is also important.
Yes. So that's a very different thing. But if what I've seen here, I think was reported by your station or so.
Yes.
See, can I just do one or two quotes?
Go ahead.
He says, what makes Ebola so dangerous is that the virus dares us to compromise the impulses that exist at the very core of our humanity. Our impulse to comfort one another with love, to care for each other with the healing power of touch, and to maintain the dignity of our loved ones, even in death, with a public funeral and properly marked grave. Ebola is a disease of isolation. It leaves family members afraid to embrace one another. Healthcare workers afraid to attend to patients, and it forces the living to abandon the cultural rites of washing, embalming, and burying their dead. Instead, they are zipped into a secure body bag, carried on a stretcher by makeshift ball bearers in protective wear, then tossed into a freshly dug ditch. Just as individuals with Ebola are often shunned and ostracized by their communities, the initial slowness of response by the international community in many ways left the affected countries to suffer their fate alone. This hits the sensibility and sensibilities of humanity. What's not emotional about this? This is a passionate...
And that's how he started the speech.
This is passionate. This is emotional. This is sensitive. It touches your core of our values. You don't have to like the person who made this speech, but the content analysis of even this tells you that the person was appealing to the emotions and sensibilities of those who were there.
Beyond appealing to the emotions, Mr. Ikutu is asking the question.
What do we need?
We are here in Ghana. We are coming to host the emergency response center. Our own doctors are complaining that we are not ready.
But
we need money.
The last time I
so
checked...
should the president have said,
no,
bring us money, bring us the equipment?
The last time I checked, such requests have been made over and over again by the president as well as ECOWAS. And some donations and commitments have come from various international...
But what the platform?
No. I think we are exaggerating a perceived lapse, which indeed is not a lapse. Because if you read, there is still an appeal to the international community to actually stop their earlier response, which was too slow, to recharge their commitment. And the fact that Ghana itself has given its capital as a base of operations, I don't see there's any real problem there.
Right.
Okay? If this picture of how Ebola has impacted adversely on our West African countries is not enough to activate more serious commitment from the international community, then I don't know what we are talking about.
A combo will not do it.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we are all entitled to opinion.
Of course.
But when you are asking for something to be done, you know, one would have expected that you go beyond merely appealing to the sensibilities. You appeal to somebody's sensibility, hoping that he will react, and you're asking him to do something. I don't think they are the same. That look, these are the challenges we are facing, and we need immediate response.
But he did.
In our African societies.
But he did.
In our African communities.
There's an area where he's asking them to change that slow response and charge their
change their attitude towards Ebola.
Yes.
No. Their slow response. No. I think we have to be fair. The slow response was relative to not showing commitment to bringing resources. So if you ask them to change it, what are you asking for? You are asking for them to show commitment by delivering resources to fight that disease.
So
some say in our African communities, we tell people our problems and we don't tell them help us. But when we tell them our problems, we simply have invited them to assist us.
Well, that is a way of looking at it. And I'm saying that nobody condemns the fact that there was an appeal. The issue is, was it passionate enough? That's all.
Okay. Thank you very much. Your messages are welcome. 1422. That's the text line, 1422. You can also send them, post them on our Facebook wall. We share with the rest of the world. Also, you can send them directly to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. And there are several other things that the president had to speak about, but I think we'll just have to, keep them and look at them subsequently in the course of the coming days. He spoke about the economy, spoke about the fact of the difficulties and sought to give a certain global nature of the economic problems. And some say that was seeking to absolve the government of for being incompetent and bringing onto our country all the economic problems that.
But he was just stating the facts, not so.
He was stating the facts, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but some have said that this is a self-inflicted, situation.
It is
waste and corruption.
It's not. It's not. And clearly, you will see clearly that he also said we're doing something within the medium term to halt the decline of the CD, to bring down inflation, to deal with the deficit. Indeed, he said that our engagement with IMF is to give us an opportunity to put the economy on a sustained path of growth. And so clearly, in that speech, you will see clearly that things that are policies and programs that are being put in place to halt the decline.
We started solving the energy problem.
Which energy problem?
Okay. The energy problem, yes. Yes. As I say, I mean, and now I'm privileged to have worked at the Ministry of Energy, and I tell you that as I speak to you now, the installed capacity of Ghana is way beyond the demand capacity of Ghana. Our greatest challenge is fuel. And if Nigeria closes the gas to Ghana, you're not going to get gas coming the next day to power the turbines. And so you've got to put in some load management to be able to deal with the contingency.
You see, we are looking at the hardships that people go through.
Yes,
with all
I just spoke about the medium term.
Fine language and communication. When we are suffering, you keep on telling us capacity and things.
So we are able to communicate effectively, except that we are not seeing the action. What I'm saying is that, I mean, you brought in this. I thought we were going to have opportunity, so I brought in a lot of documents here to show clearly that things are happening.
It's for another time.
And next time when we come here, we will show clearly, going forward, how we intend to anchor this country on a sustained path of growth.
Thank you very much. And a few messages here. And this one is coming from Divine. Divine says that good morning to all of you. A fantastic job you are doing. He says the president's speech was great, emotional, appealing, especially how he describes the impact of Ebola on our cultural norms. He needs not specifically request for aid before the international community comes to our aid. Thank you for that message. And then Abdul Jabril says that I believe Ebola okay, you didn't he says from Savulugu, he says I believe Ebola is a blessing in disguise to the affected countries. Since the outbreak of the disease, wars and conflicts in these countries are which these countries are noted for have given way to how Ebola can be gotten rid of. That's how it's a blessing. Okay, very interesting. Very interesting view there. We are still here on Newsfile on Joy 99.7 FM. We're also live on FM and affiliate stations across the country. Now, I'm also, okay, sorry. This one I'll deliver it to the technical team privately. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, the last bit we want to deal with in this aspect is the president making a comment seeking to back Alassane Ouattara of Cote d'Ivoire for next elections. And I just read this something small from, as reported by TV3 Network. It says the President John Mahama has thrown his support for Alassane Ouattara in the next presidential elections in La Cote d'Ivoire. La Cote d'Ivoire is fairly more stable, and as long as the alliance between the PDC and President Ouattara's party holds, my expectation is that the government might win a second term. And that's President Mahama we are quoting here. President Mahama stated on Monday in a chat with investors in New York. How do you take that statement at a point where we seem to...
Okay, and I get the, the slant put on what you have just read appears to have been that President Mahama was inviting the people of Liberia to vote for Ouattara.
Liberia?
Ivory Coast to vote for Ouattara. But clearly what you have read doesn't give me that picture. He's saying, just analyzing the situation on the ground and saying that it looks to him that Ouattara might win the second term. So there's a possibility. That's what you just read. But even assuming that President Mahama roots for Ouattara, I think that would be the most politically expedient thing to do. Liberia is a fragile state.
Ivory Coast,
sorry, Ivory Coast because of Ebola.
Ebola, yeah. I know.
Ivory Coast is a fragile state. You need continuous administration to establish the institutions. The country needs to benefit from the longevity of an administration in order to put in institutions of state that can endure, in order to help heal the wounds of the conflict. You need that. You need a government that clearly will look to see how to bring back Ivory Coast onto a path of development, as we used to see it. Now, as chairman of ECOWAS, probably President John Dramani Mahama is saying things that we are not privileged to say. And if he appreciates the development and political dynamism in Ivory Coast and says it looks to him that the president, and so be it. But more importantly, dovetail that to what we are doing with Ivory Coast. It means, again, that even though we are seeking to resolve our maritime issues with Liberia, with Ivory Coast, we are still continuing to engage them and to wish them well, because we believe that as a sister nation, the progress of Ivory Coast will impact positively on that of Ghana. When they were in turmoil, their refugees ran here. We had to host them. Ghana went through some disturbances. They were worried that the Bagos, ministers who were here, will cause some destabilization of Ivory Coast from here. And so, if President Mahama is looking to see how we can position Ivory Coast to take its rightful place in Africa, in West Africa.
And they'll go for elections a year before we do.
Well, and again, look at the political dynamics. It was said that President Ouattara was not of the ilk of President Mahama and late President Atamels. And so, late President Atamels and his NDC government were supporting Ouattara in the face of a win. We're supporting Gbagbo in the face of a win by Ouattara. And today, the successor to late President Mills is looking at the situation on the ground and endorsing probably the candidature, the win of the Alassane Ouattara's party. So it means political dynamism and political realism is taking shape. And African leaders are beginning to see that this ideology is dogmatism, or what is it called? The dogma of following things blindly and looking at them from a clouded point of view should give way to reality.
Mr. Husseini is saying that, look, his expectation is not a direct invitation to the Ivorians to vote Ouattara a second term. So what's our problem? He didn't make any mistake by doing that. The president actually also added that. He said, I guess that Ouattara will be a good thing for Cote d'Ivoire, having come out of a conflict that was created by a disputed election. I think that some stability in Cote d'Ivoire will be helpful to the whole region. Some suggest this is some diplomatic gaffe.
Avoidable indiscretion. That's how I put it.
Okay.
It's indiscreet, the public nature of it. When you read the first one, my brother Husseini agreed that it didn't mean the president was endorsed, but he went in that direction. You understand? His submission went into the direction of making us think that the president indeed was endorsing and suggesting that this was good for stability, so this man ought to be the one to run. Stability really sometimes, I don't know why it's reduced to longevity of a president or a head of state. If the system is stable, it's stable, based on the rules and regulations, the conduct of operations. If elections are free and fair, if the judiciary is independent, you understand, if the media is free, governments can go and come. during the stipulated duration, there will still be stability, in my candid opinion. But you see now, here we are, the impression out there is as if the president of Ghana has endorsed Ouattara. Now you are going to have to do a lot of explanation to say that he was only looking into the crystal ball.
Oh.
And that's that. But why should presidents look into crystal balls and go public with them, their views? I think this was avoidable indiscretion.
Ms. Aikoto, there's another twist to it, where Nana Akufo-Addo says that, well, and, you know, there's a news article that's, you know, says it bluntly that Ouattara, with his age, is doing better than John Mahama. And you know, Ouattara and Nana Akufo-Addo are age mates. So he's saying, so what is this thing that we say here in Ghana, that Nana Akufo-Addo is old, and so, you know, Ghana deserve a younger president like Mahama?
Well, my own view of the matter, having read the report, is that I think the president has been quoted out of context. Oh. And the usual thing that our pressmen do, where they give their own byline to the story. You know, the context in which the president was speaking appears to be wooing investors to do business in West Africa. And you see a picture with the president sitting with Ouattara. So we're talking to investors and we are telling you that come and do business in West Africa. And this gentleman, you know, appears to be doing some work there. There's the likelihood of stability, which we always say that that is what they look for. We don't want these political upheavals, but I want to be sure that there's some stability.
But if you lose an election,
yes.
If Ouattara were to lose an election which was free and fair, why should that destabilize?
Well, that is what some people think, that by you being there, it means there is some kind of political stability. I mean, we always say this, that where there are upheavals, investors don't come. So within the context that he was talking about wooing investors, the statement, not necessarily as a political statement. I mean, who is it to determine who votes for who? And who is the best candidate?
And the small twist I drew your attention to, Nana Akufo-Addo said that 72-year-old Alassane Ouattara is doing 10 times better for Cote d'Ivoire than 50-something-year-old Mahama for Ghana. We have a man who in 3 years has transformed Cote d'Ivoire, a country 10 years in civil war.
Well, you see, again, within the context that we have to understand the title chosen or the byline chosen, you have now said that somebody who is over 70 still has the strength to go on to do better for his country. Why not me? That is all that is asking. And what about me? If you say that at that age people can't think correctly, they are too old, they don't have the energy, and you are saying that he needs even 4 more years, then what about? So within that context, I think Nana is okay, except that, well, we have got into the season, you know, so it should be said to be attacking. Taking advantage.
No, what we're saying is that Nana should leave the post for people like my senior here. That's what we're saying.
Don't go there.
Mr. Fojo, Koko says that this is avoidable indiscretion.
I would cast it as a very useful indiscretion. Why am I saying that? We have taken Ivory Coast to arbitration. Some people view it as hostile, unfriendly. And what is Prez Mahama doing? Because he's actually with the man in New York.
Right.
Right? He has taken the man to arbitration, yet he's saying that the man should be re-elected. So, yeah, I think it's a useful diplomatic indiscretion.
See, hypothetically, assuming Ouattara were to lose.
Yes.
Now, the opponents of Ouattara now, if they are perceiving the Ghanaian president's thing as an endorsement and support, assuming Ouattara were to lose, those opponents will come in, will not be seen as a very friendly country.
I see.
Assuming our president is still the president.
But
These are all dynamics.
but
They can't see it as normal politics.
That's why it's better to avoid it.
Okay.
We'll take a break here, and when we return, we find out how exactly Parliament is going to probe the Shraj boss after further revelations, indictment by the Auditor General. We'll be right back.